We try to get a little better light here because I had to switch camera.
No
Hi guys.
worries. Okay, hey everyone. Welcome to our One Piece live chat going in blind. We are going to be talking about episode 2 real quick, but I want to introduce my guests. Of course, you know my co host, Laura from the channel Fantasy Awash. And we thought it'd be kind of fun and cool to have an episode guest on with each discussion. And these are people who also have gone into the show blind. And so our episode 2 guest we have is Dan from the Black and Blue Collar Reader.
Yay,
Hey,
Um,
Dan.
hey, thanks for
welcome.
having me, guys. I really do appreciate it.
We're happy to have you.
Yeah,
Yeah,
like
absolutely.
I definitely went into this show absolutely blind, and I think like many people my age, the aesthetic of One Piece kind of threw me off.
Yeah.
I would say I'm ignorant, I'm biased. I see One Piece, and I have to be honest, like with manga and anime, their humor does not work for me at
That's
all.
fair.
There's always somebody that's eating something that they're not supposed to, and that's a humor that just kind of throws me off.
Yeah.
So when I go for manga, I look for the more detailed artists, the the gorier stuff, and things like that. So when I first laid eyes on One Piece, just looking at it, I said this isn't for me
Yeah.
automatically, and that was my mistake completely because it I went in completely blind. So the first episode when I was watching, I found out it was about pirates. I kind of under knew it was about pirates,
Yeah.
but I did not know it was a whole world centered around uh, pirating and things like that. So when Luffy did that whole stretch thing, like I was shocked. I had no idea that was coming. So that threw me for a loop. Now listen, this is very absurdist,
Yes.
but it is working for me
Well,
right
that's
now.
good.
Right now, it is working for me, and I really want to see where the show goes. I really thought it would be for a a teenage group,
Hmm.
but that is not the case. This is definitely in my wheelhouse, and definitely something that I really enjoyed the first episode.
Well, that's cool. I'm still confused as to what age group this is supposed to be for. Because I feel like when I watch it, the language is very adolescent based, but then some of the themes and cinematography are very much not adolescent based. So I don't know where we're supposed to be on our scale here of age appropriateness.
I kind of
But
like that,
yeah, it's
actually.
Yeah,
ambiguous.
yeah. I kind of like the where are we exactly? There's a lot of adult themes here. We've
Yeah.
seen some actual nudity. I mean, these
Yeah.
and so it's kind of up in the air. There are cuss words, and so you do get definitely a little mix of everything, and
Hmm.
it is. It's just this such a bizarre show, to you know kind of determined. So Dan, did you so for you it was right out of the bat, like almost like what would you say, like maybe halfway in the show you're like this is
All right.
pretty interesting, or did you
Yeah.
need like a
So,
whole episode?
just let me know if my voice sounds a little different. Um, I do have the mic here. Excuse me. Sorry. So yeah, this when I first jumped into it, so it was getting me, right? I was like, okay, this might be something I could be into. I would say Alvita, when they introduced her character, it started to wane for me because I didn't really feel that character. But once, I gotta say, Luffy and whoever, the actor's name, whoever they cast in that role is playing him perfectly. And I don't even know, I don't even know One Piece. I just think that role with that absurdist style of acting that you have to be able to pull off, and I think he is doing it. There are some actors that I don't think pull that off as well, such as Alvita. I did not like her character, um, and at first I did not like the redheaded girl. I forget her name right now.
Nami.
Nami. Nami.
Nami. At
Yep.
first, I didn't get enough of her to really enjoy her character or get a sense of who she is. I did, all of a sudden she whipped out that bow or whatever. I thought that was very cool. However, I think the second episode definitely gave her character a little more depth.
She was
Awesome.
my favorite of the second episode
Yeah,
group.
Yeah.
I agree.
hmm So with that
Actually,
in mind,
I might.
yeah, go ahead, Dan. Go ahead.
No, we'll get to Cat who we liked. I think that was a
Mm.
good call. She does, I think that character definitely took a step up in this episode, and it was one of the characters that I really didn't care for in the first.
So with that in mind, getting into episode two, we start off with a flashback scene, and we discover, Luffy's discovering his powers with from eating the gum gum fruit, devil fruit, and we just kind of that little bit of that Shanks and Luffy relationship, which kind of for me, I liked right from the start. I mean, how do you guys feel about this? These flashback scenes. I know we struggled a little bit with the actor. Me and Laura did last week. We struggled a little bit with the young actor, kind of not having that adult Luffy's like accent or anything kind of like that line. But we did kind of just I kind of grew to accept it. I do think Shanks carries those scenes definitely.
I don't like the kid. I'm just gonna say I don't like him. I don't think he's a very good actor, and I think part of that is because Shanks is such a good actor that the discrepancy between the two seems so vast. And obviously, you can look at it from a really critical context and say one is a child, one is an adult, one should be vastly more adhered to their skill than another. But I feel like the innocence of older Luffy and the naivety is kind of lost on young Luffy, and it doesn't translate well. I just don't feel like these are the same people. I get that people evolve and change, but we're supposed to basically be seeing the evolution of a character that from episode 1 as a child is very pro violence to an adult that is very anti-violence, and he distinguishes himself throughout the episode as not being your typical pirate. He's an abnormal pirate because he's not violent. The scenes between young Luffy and Shanks are really great, but it's, in my opinion, because of Shanks. And I like that
Shanks.
we get the background on their relationship because obviously the episode is called The Man in the Straw Hat. So we know that that can be inferring to both of them because they've both worn this hat at some point in time. But yeah, I do struggle with the kid.
Absolutely agree with everything you just said. I was talking. My wife actually watched the first episode with me, and when I brought up, I really enjoyed Luffy's character, but I hated young Luffy. And she's like, that child actor. She's like that. He just didn't land. It just wasn't working. And I think Laura says it right. Putting him next to Shanks as an actor, definitely you can see the disparity between the two. But yet, we have child actors that do great. I
Yes.
do believe this is probably a harder role because he does have to go through a transition. We saw where that he didn't understand Shanks's mentality or his outlook on life. He thought that all pirates should stick up for themselves. Violence is the answer, the first answer and the only answer. But I do believe we have missed that evolution there. I believe that might be something that comes along that we might see to kind of, you know, find out where he decided that Shanks's methodology or outlook on the world was correct, was the right one, and the right one to follow. Because, we have this trope of a pirate, and it's live free in the ocean and all that, but it's also the robbery and taking over people, and how that balances out to where we get Shanks's outlook is a total new spin, more to the positive for pirates. So I really like the dichotomy between the two versions of pirates, and I'd like to see Shanks's version more in the spotlight here, if that makes sense.
No, absolutely. No, I agree with both of you on the whole thing. Um, there was a moment, we'll discuss it later on one of the other flashback scenes, where the kid actor finally gave us a little bit of a moment. I think he did actually cry, and tears were actually coming from his eyes. So I think that, the kid was trying, kind of thing. But I think because Shanks is such to me, I think Shanks is such a strong character, that those scenes really are pretty much carried, and even more so from a little bit from the um, a little bit of, I guess it's a bartender or caretaker, or
Yeah.
yeah, I don't know if it's not his mother, right? It's but probably some sort of,
Yeah, I
yeah,
I kept trying to
caretaker,
identify who she was. I was like, "What is your role here other than,
bartender. Yeah.
than being a server type thing?" Obviously, she has an affinity for these people, but I don't think it's been explored much more than
Mhm.
that. But
Yeah.
I will say one of the things that we learn in the opening sequence of events that I thought was interesting is that we learned that no gum gum fruit is the same,
Yep.
and that you basically make a deal when you eat one. And of course, I kept for the whole episode thinking, okay, what was the deal that he made? And I'm still waiting to find out what that
The
is.
the only thing I could come up with myself was he's always hungry.
That
I
was what
don't,
I thought too.
but
But
I
I
think
think
he
that's
was
more just
hungry
a
prior
character
to
thing.
eating, but he's hungry prior to eating the fruit too, isn't
Exactly. I think he's just like me in that we're always hungry.
he?
And my kid, she just eats from dawn until dusk. So I think that's just the nature of his character. But yeah, I mean, I wrote down that the line "we're not coming back" because I felt in that scene it was, one of those things that's kind of heartbreaking for a kid, right? When their idol says, "I'm leaving, I'm not taking you with me," type thing. But Shanks for me is the best character in the show. So I'm really hoping
Wow.
we
Okay.
do see more of Shanks.
Yeah.
But I don't know how that's gonna look going forward.
Yeah. So we get back to present day, and we uh, Nami's trying to get into the safe still. Yuffie is kind of just very restless once, and Nami takes away his hat. Kind of very symbolism is this hat throughout this episode, and it's the only time you really see Luffy serious, and he's like he's usually a happy-go-lucky kind of character, and then he's definitely we know the attachment to himself in Shanks, and this hat is that symbol for that. So anytime that someone messes with it, that's a trigger for Luffy, and it's like the only time he gets into like serious mode kind of thing.
Yeah.
Um,
One of the things I appreciated too in this early exchange when she's trying to undo or open the safe and then does, when they see that it's just the map in there and the line was more valuable than gold knowledge. I love that because as
That was great.
as a Ravenclaw, I'm like, yes, knowledge above all things. So I thought that was a great line. But I liked seeing more of that dynamic. So I'm going to be honest from the get-go with this episode. I struggled with a lot of this episode because I felt that the buggy scenes were terrible. They went on way too long and it was way too much exposition and I did not enjoy it. The scenes that I did enjoy was the relationship building between the crew and the flashback relationship establishment between Luffy and Shanks. So in the moments like this, I really enjoyed these scenes because we're getting to know each of these characters on a more deeper level, but also cohesively as a unit. So I liked the interchange that we're starting to see at the beginning with the three of them here. And this kind of solidified my liking Nami for the most this episode, other than Shanks, because I was like, oh, girlfriend's all about knowledge. Like, yeah, I'm there for that. So yeah, that was my general feeling at this point.
No, absolutely. And then yeah, we get so they get under attack, and they Luffy acts quick, responsive. He swallows the map. Nice little trick there.
Convenient.
I can only imagine how his stomach feels.
Right.
And then we open up to our first sort of our we kind of had our little intro to Buggy in episode 1 with the little final scene there. So we kind of set up for episode 2 as him being the main antagonist of this episode. We get opens up to the circus. Everyone's out there clapping, and they're trying to get out of there. And I love the fact that Luffy's clapping with them.
Yeah.
Just thinks it's fun, totally oblivious.
This is kind of what I was saying, though, in the context of the relatability between the young and the old actor, because old Luffy is standing there rather, clapping and smiling and thinking, well, this is a show. Excellent.
Yeah.
Whereas young Luffy would have been marching up there to, scream at him and all that kind of stuff. So I'm hoping at some point we get a good development to see how we've jumped from A to B with his character. But I had such strong Shrek vibes during this scene where they're holding the applause sign and things like that. I was like, oh, this is very Lord Farquaad when he's getting married. I enjoyed that aspect. How about you, Dan? What did you think of this?
So the introduction to Buggy, I really like the visual effects when he actually passed out from, I think he looked outside and there was something in the water that was floating, and something came down and the purple thing burst and he fell asleep. We all knew what was happening here. Introduction to Boogie, not the best. Though when Luffy called him Boogie, I lost it. I thought that was hysterical, and he was like, my name's Buggy. But I think you're right. I think the exposition went on too long. I don't think the actor landed. The actor has this great character in Buggy, in my opinion. And we got a great intro to this character. Now, blow me away with this character. He did not do that. His dialogue didn't land for me in certain spots. I thought it could have been better, more powerful.
Yes.
He just kept, like you said, he kept going on. I might go into a little further because when Buggy did his thing, it blew my mind. I was just like, whoa, what is going on? And I found out he ate the fruit and his body separates into all these pieces, and that fight scene, I was really into that.
I liked that aspect of it too. I thought visually it was really well done. It just felt kind of like what you were saying, that when you're looking at the theme of the episode, it's being different, right? And it's being us versus them, the other, the freaks. And you can have a character that's felt very jaded and has therefore in turn put that out in the world and is now this psychotic mass murderer, basically, is how they're kind of trying to just display him. But I felt that it came across, and I understand that it's meant to be satirical and absurdist, but I feel like you can run a very fine line between too far into the absurdity camp and not leaning too far into the dark camp, because I feel like they should have leaned a little bit more into dark and twisted rather than into absurdist, because I feel like had they done that, I would have bought it a little bit better. And I felt maybe that the scenes would have made a bit more sense in the greater scheme of things. But also, when Chris and I talked about this last week, I was thinking that Buggy was going to be our antagonist for the season, along with the Marine. So I was kind of surprised that we were getting as much of him in this episode. I kind of thought maybe we would get the opening sequence with him, and then we wouldn't really see him for the majority of the episode. And then we'd maybe pick up throughout the next few episodes. But no, I was very, very wrong on that front.
I think this is why we kind of are like confused on where this falls for like age level, because I feel like our villains so far, like you mentioned, Dan, about Alvidia, and then now Buggy. I think now Buggy, of course, is a lot stronger of a character, and I think Alvina was supposed to be kind of a one-off. I don't know, maybe she'll return into a bigger role, but
I don't know. She's floating in the ocean somewhere.
Yeah, she's out in the ocean. But Buggy, I think, was definitely a more fleshed out. But I think there was a little bit of that miss opportunity there, a little bit.
However,
I
I
did
think
like the action scenes though with them.
I think something that was really opened up within this episode is the magic of this world. At first, I have Luffy. Um, he's the only person that I see with a magical, quality or aspect to him. When I first got introduced to Buggy, I thought he was just going to be some villain. Um, and right now we find out that, with this fruit and it affects people differently. So now our magical world has kind of opened up. So now what, the expectation of the next characters that we are running into, I think, is a little higher now. And I'm interested to see, who else possesses this magic. Is there a lot of people? Is it very few people? I mean, we're getting magic from a fruit. Is this, so that these avenues and these thoughts and questions definitely opened up with this episode for me.
Absolutely. And yeah, I just love the way Luffy here still kind of plays off of him a little bit. I mean, like you mentioned, Dan, the whole Boogie, and then I think he named him Blinky, or he never named him his right name, kind of thing. And I think we get more of the magic, we get more of a little bit of what this world is about, what, like, the pirates, where they come from. And this kind of leads into Nami's role here, where we get a little bit of a darkness here. We get a little bit of self, wanting to do her own thing. We get a sense that Nami is maybe not all she seems right here, and she's all for herself at first here, and she immediately she finds a way to get out. She pretty much throws Luffy under the bus for his magic ability, and she takes off. And then we do see a darker side with the devastation of the village and all that, and that just kind of killed her a little bit as a
I like this aspect about her. It gave her more dimension. I like the fact that we're not just seeing good. Morally good is really boring. And we can have different shades of good and what's moral and what's immoral. But obviously with Zoro, we see, he kills people or fights people, but he's doing it out of the goodness because he's anti-pirate. Luffy is naive and doesn't really want to hurt people, so he's good. But with Nami, it's kind of this ambiguousness where she's fully out for herself, which she should be in this world of pirates and survivability, but also what's her overarching plan and goal. So there were many reasons for me in this episode that she seemed the most interesting. Obviously, the little tidbit at the end is kind of what wrapped the whole thing together. But yeah, I liked her. But can we talk about Kobe for a second? And the only reason I want to say this is because in the 1990s, okay, on the Disney Channel, there was this terrible Disney Channel movie called Cadet Kelly, and it starred Hilary Duff. And I started laughing when I saw Cadet on Kobe. I was like, it's like Cadet Kelly, but it's Cadet Kobe. And I thought it was just hilarious. And I liked the scene in general because I thought it was funny watching him with Hamato and his beautiful, beautiful hair.
So were you surprised to see Colby, first of all? Because you and I kind of discussed this in the first episode, and Dan, you can definitely chime in. Did you think Kobe was just a one episode, maybe show up later on in the season, or did we expect to get a side story with Kobe?
Yeah, so I thought we were going to get back to him.
Same.
For sure, because he's with the military there, and of course they came through. They definitely established him as a character that we will be following in that first episode. And I do think, think of all these storylines that we have going on now with, they, like Laura was, saying earlier, we thought Buggy would be this, single antagonist that we would be following throughout, but we have a lot of things going on. There's a lot of story threads being woven here. At least one. I think, we still have backstories to get from Zoro and Luffy. To be honest, I think we really fleshed out.
Nami,
why do I always forget her name? We really fleshed out the red-haired lady in the last episode, and I think either Zoro's coming up. I'll tell you this: I'd like to see what happened to Buggy. And I think they're going to throw that in there to make him a understandable villain, and I hope they pull that off.
I definitely think we'll get an answer to what happened to Buggy, more so than I think we'll get one for Alvida. I think Alvida is kind of gone, and I'm fine with it. But I think because of the fact that he has also had some of the devil fruit, and he's kind of our only other, like Dan was saying, right? We get a wider scope of what different magic is in our world. And I like that as someone that likes magic systems and knowing what the rules are for magic systems. I really appreciate that. So I like that we're learning, like we said earlier in the episode, that there's a deal that you make when you eat one of the gum fruits. And Buggy's was called the chop fruit, which I thought was interesting. And obviously we see that by him basically being able to disassemble himself and put him back together like he's a Lego piece. But also we learned later in the episode that seawater nullifies that power. So we did have a lot of these building blocks of magic that we're learning about in this episode, which I really appreciate because I like to know, I'm okay with certain stories where we learn as we go and we're kind of more ingrained in the world. But when you're showing someone kind of off the bat having this intense ability comparatively to everyone around them, I like to have a general understanding of what the game is that we're playing. So I liked that for this episode. But yeah, I do think it would be cool if we got more of an answer to what happens to Buggy maybe, but only if they're going to really lean into that sadistic side of Buggy and less so into the absurdist side of him. But I feel like that'll be hard now when he's like this big.
Now, I the one thing I will say about the Marine scene here, I love how serious Garb is, or is that his name? Garb
Yeah.
is in this series, and then he's got this like bulldog like cap on, like a
Yeah.
like a winter hat that's a
100%.
bulldog on there, and it's just the absurdity of the show that just I think
Hmm.
that just
I
draws me in.
appreciate the costuming quite a bit. I feel like each character's costume is reflective of who they are, and I appreciate that. I feel like thematically they all fit together. So yeah, I think that they've done a good job with the costuming.
So when we get back, these are some of the stronger scenes I enjoyed, and it was these interactions between Zoro and Nami
Hmm.
being locked up. These were some of my favorites besides the Shank scenes, and I like the call out Zoro makes to Nami about just trying to escape, but then you know what's your story, what are you here for too, kind of thing. And I just like this little back and forth thing. And then we see Luffy being tortured, and but he's not being tortured, he's laughing about it and kind of joking around with Buggy here a little bit. I think this is where he calls him Boogie or some other name, and
It doesn't seem like the most effective torture device when you're pulling someone that
when you're stretching
can
him, yeah.
endlessly be pulled. So that was a little odd of a choice. I was like, really? He can just go forever. It seems like you might want to do something different.
Yeah, I think it's on Luffy's kind of magic is unfolding too. So we don't
Hmm.
really, we know he stretches, right? So at first I'm like, oh, they're gonna put him in the water. Is he gonna be able to blow a bubble with his rubber and be able to breathe or
Mm.
something underwater? And like I was, so I think we still haven't seen everything. They have such a good character, a Rubberman type character. Hopefully
Yeah.
they can find some inventive ways to make cool scenes with him. And but now we see that he can be stretched beyond limits here. So I believe as we go along, we're gonna, Luffy's magic, and of course I hope that backstory
Yeah.
is gonna unfold a little more because of what Buggy said. And Buggy actually knew Shanks, and
Yeah.
the I think didn't Buggy have three knives, and
Yeah.
doesn't
I
Shanks
saw that
have
too. I was like,
three
I
like
think that's
Oh,
scratches down
that's,
good.
his
yeah.
Yeah.
face?
Yeah.
So there, I think we'll get that interaction some, and
I think so too.
maybe that's where Buggy turns wrong. Or maybe he miss, who knows, but I can't wait to look into that as well.
I
That's a
agree.
good thing I did not catch that. Yeah.
Yeah, I was looking at it and I was like, I'm pretty sure that's three, and I'm pretty sure he's got three on his claw thing. So,
Where
which
where did those claw things coming from for him anyway? Do I like they're always like there, like
I
almost
think
like
that he kind
Wolverine-ish.
of just they're his weapon of choice, basically. So he just pulls them out when
Okay.
he wants
But
them.
they're
But
not like Wolverine kind of thing,
You're gonna
right?
have to
no,
give me just
They're
one
not.
second. I'll be right back,
Yeah.
guys. Okay.
no
Yeah,
worries.
no
Yeah.
worries. Okay,
But
so they're not
yeah,
they're not like a Wolverine kind of thing,
I don't think
right?
they're retractable. No, I think his ability is just that he can separate himself. I don't think it's that he can then add pieces.
Hmm.
But yeah, that was my interpretation of it. I will say though, what did you think of the scene where Zoro's on the spinning wheel and the guy is constantly throwing the stuff at him? I found it to be a little redundant at one point. I was like, we get it. Like you don't remember who this guy is. Okay.
Yeah, you don't remember. Yeah, you don't remember who the guy is, and throwing knives is not putting any sort of fear into Zoro
Yeah,
whatsoever.
not at all.
I think, and maybe I don't know. This is kind of a prediction. I think we might get some backstory for Zoro maybe next episode,
I hope
Yeah,
so.
I'm looking forward to that as well because I
because
think that
I feel like these scenes with him talking about his kills and his a little bit. I think it just is a setup, and for probably Nami too. I think we'll probably start hitting some of those backstories for these two, but hopefully,
Yeah. Dan, do you have a favorite character? I don't think we asked you.
yeah.
do I have a favorite character? Honestly,
That's
I
far. It's early.
it is, but you know what? I am kind of impressed with Luffy,
Yeah.
to be honest. And if you can't tell, he has this kind of live free, outlook on life like Shanks does, and I love
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
Do what you want, live every day like it's your last. Don't sweat the small stuff. I really love that outlook on Luffy, and honestly, because I think Luffy was a shock to me because I saw this, um, because I judged this series by its aesthetic, by its
Yeah.
look. I didn't think that I would enjoy something like this. And and I saw Luffy, I'm like, oh, this is gonna be I'm sorry, guys, a corny anime character who
Mhm.
laughs at farts and things like that, and
Yeah.
Yeah,
it blew me
no,
away. I
yeah,
was
mhm.
completely wrong, and I'm glad I gave it a
Mhm.
try, at least for this TV show,
Hmm.
because now I might even jump into buying the manga and do it backwards. Maybe you guys should do it backwards with me.
That's what we were talking
Yeah,
about.
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that's what we were talking about. Yep,
I think
absolutely.
about it. It's
I
funny.
think.
Go ahead, Chris.
Oh no, I was just gonna say I was kind of with you, Dan. I mean, I when I see pictures of especially the anime, and all I see is this guy with like just wide eyes, and it just kind of so cartoony looking, and so like how are they going to do this live action? First of all, is are they going to like have
Yeah.
like tape open his eyes up or something, or are they going to not play that in the literal sense? But I like the yeah, it was just I was completely surprised. Yeah,
What's
absolutely. And I see the popularity. I see the popularity of this manga
yeah, what's
played out even in this show. Yeah.
what's been killing me is not going to the internet and looking up the characters that I might run into.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
haven't done anything. The only exposure I had had to the show was seeing a few images on Murphy Napier's channel. I would see the thumbnails,
Mhm.
and that was all I had seen of the show. And then I watched the trailer when it was dropped, and people were like, "Oh, it looks like they're doing his stretching thing well." So I knew that he had this stretch ability thing, but other than that, didn't really know anything. But I agree with what you're saying in terms of the just optimistic person of Luffy, because I feel like Luffy is who parents tell their kids as a teenager to be, right? It's like, let it go. It's not a big deal. You don't have to fight about it. Like, you do you. And I'm like, he's kind of epitomizing that. So it's fun to watch, especially when he's surrounded by very chaotic people. But one of the things that I am more interested in as well going forward from this episode is the empire side of things happening. And I'm curious because last episode we saw that snail phone, right, which we referred to as possibly snail mail, and then we kind of saw that again in this episode where he's feeding his snail phone or whatever. And then at the end of the episode, I'm jumping ahead a little bit, but we saw that Nami put that almost insect device on that she used as a phone. So is she a covert spy for the military of some sort? I'm curious to see what that is going to lead to. But like you, Dan, I haven't looked anything up. So I'm just staying steadfast to the
Don't
course.
don't do that.
I
Be
Yeah.
don't
surprised.
know.
I am
Yeah.
fully, I'm getting I can't. This first impression thing is I want to keep that going. I don't want to
Yeah.
ruin anything for me. But yeah, like I've stated before, I was definitely shocked that I enjoyed this. I turned it on, knowing you guys were doing this Saturday night last week. I was like, let me just see what this is about. I watched it and I was like, dude, I can't wait till they get on because I want to talk about this. It was good, and I was pleasantly surprised.
I didn't realize you watched it for our thing. I thought you had watched it and you had already like seen the whole season and really enjoyed it. So that's
No,
nice.
I that's what I was like, this is perfect. I'm like, they're gonna watch it, and when people are in these live chats, like I like it when I experience something
Yeah.
recent, when we talk about Abercrombie books, or books, some people miss that live discussion, and
Yeah.
a TV show's easy. I was like, oh,
Hmm.
I didn't watch this, and they're gonna talk about it. Why don't I throw it on Saturday night? It's got the buzz, and people who enjoy One Piece as a manga are very thrilled by what the show's doing, from
Hmm.
what I have heard and run into.
Yeah.
So I was just Saturday night. I didn't have no kids; they were gone. Me and the lady turned on One Piece, and I was pleasantly surprised.
Yeah. This is what I figured, Rogue. It definitely, in terms of the way that you would structure a show, makes sense that you would get background for each of these characters so that you'd get the whole unit and crew's backstory to come together. But there's certain characters, I don't know, even know if I would say that there's certain characters I'm more interested in. I would say that I'm still sort of the same as last week, that the character I'm least interested in is Kobe, even though I'm interested in the stuff that's going on around him. But as a character themselves, he's the one that I'm the least interested in their backstory. But I mean, good luck. Good luck if you
What
find
what
that fruit.
what do you think your devil fruit power would be?
And what
That should
deal
be
would
a
you
question.
get it? Because we still don't know what this deal is, right? I will say one thing. I always like when a show can get an evocative physical reaction from me, and it's not very often that that happens. But I don't do well whenever there's a like magic trick type thing where people are encased in glass and water's filling up. It fills me with anxiety because I'm a swimmer, and the idea of drowning terrifies me. And I was sitting there watching it getting anxious as that water was filling up. And I was sitting there thinking, I was like, wonder if the actor felt anxious filming this scene, because I feel anxious watching it. So I do appreciate that in the greater context of the episode, because it is supposed to be a stressful moment, that it did actually make me feel a bit stressed, even though underlyingly, that it's not really going to be life
Yeah,
threatening to lose.
yeah. I love, and I think it was one of my favorite Buggy lines here too. It's like, I'm sorry, I can't hear you from all the drowning, kind of
Yeah.
thing. But and it's funny because the whole time the water is filling up, the only thing Luffy is still focused on
Is the
is
hat.
the hat, which is makes the scene even funnier
Hmm.
because yeah, the tank's filling up, and all Luffy is concerned about is the hat, which takes us to that second flashback scene, which I enjoyed as well, despite the faulty young actor. But Luffy gets captured by one of those pirates from the first episode. They're taken out they're out in the sea, and we get a little more of the world. So
Yep.
apparently, sea monsters, giant ass sea monsters, exist
Megalodon.
in this world. Yep.
Yeah.
And we learned, I guess we get a little bit of Shanks's power.
Yeah, he's got a
Probably,
calming
maybe
ability.
he had a little bit of fruit himself. So looks like he has the ability to subdue vicious monsters. Very fitting for his character and his personality, I think.
Did you think it was just for monsters? Because I thought it was for everybody. I feel like
Maybe
that's
it
why
is.
the
Maybe it
fruit
is. Maybe it's
killer.
for anybody kind of aggressive. I mean, that's how he plays. Like even that pirate fight scene we had at the bar,
Yep.
he doesn't really partake in it. More, he's kind of more like
Yeah.
dodgy, where his actual crew is doing the fighting for him,
Yeah.
which I think,
Exactly.
yeah,
But
So I
go ahead,
portrayed
Jen.
that as like a power over sea monsters rather than a calming ability. So that would be, I like your outlook on it,
yeah.
Laura. I thought
I
that
like
would
it too.
fit
Yeah.
him perfectly.
Hmm.
Um, but I got to go back and watch this because all he did say was stop, right? Or something.
Then his eye kind of like
He said, I think it was like
diluted or something like
Yeah,
cool
that.
it
off
went
or
And
in and
then
back
out.
off or something like
yeah,
that.
yeah.
But yeah, you definitely see it's a direct eye contact thing. So I
Hmm.
don't know if in the first episode where that incident at the bar does happen and then the guys leave, if it is him looking directly in the eye of the other person. But we see right from the very moment that we meet him in the first episode that everyone around him is pretty jovial and easygoing, which for a pirate crew is definitely not typical behavior. This is atypical behavior. So I'm wondering if that is something that he kind of omits and that just kind of engulfs everyone around him type thing. And therefore, obviously, we know that this is the person that Luffy is trying to emulate. And I so agree that he does have a very Ryan Gosling feel. He looks like Ryan Gosling. I thought that every single time he was on screen. But I think his power is interesting, whatever it is. Okay, Rose. Interesting.
Oh, okay. Cool.
More magic for the world.
Some mystery. So because of that, because I thought the one reason why I thought he had devil fruit here was the fact that I had to watch this several times because I kept missing it. But because one moment he has 2 arms, and then the next moment he doesn't have an arm. I don't ever remember, but there is a scene where the monster lunges at Shanks. So at first I thought maybe this is one of those drawbacks of devil fruit, where because Shanks hadn't used
this was
power,
his deal.
he lost an arm or something. But we see the monster probably got that first. I had to watch that a couple times.
No, when he turned around, I was like, where the fuck is this guy's arm?
Yeah, I had to watch it. I had to watch it several times. I had to rewind.
Did he get that? Did that monster? You watched it, and
the monster did lunge at him.
I did see the lunge, but I didn't see a connection.
Yeah, I
thought it was a
really don't throw it.
Yeah, I didn't either.
I did write in quotes here. It's only an arm. I would be so pissed if I lost one of my arms. You only have 2 of them, so it's only an arm. Just leaves you with only an arm. So
I want whatever Shanks is on. It's
right?
all good.
Yeah. Dude is
the only outlook I'm taking like that is for a pinky toe.
I lost an arm. I lost the leg. It's all
not
good.
Like he's losing gallons of blood as he should be and just passed out on the bottom of the boat, but all good.
So that is one part where that absurdity kind of, in my opinion, kind of stretched because I'm that type of person. Like, bro, you're supposed to be bleeding out right now. You should be dead. And he's like, like it's a pinky toe or something.
Right?
Like that's all you lost. It's your right arm, bro.
I'm like, it's not like we cauterized this at the same time that it was eaten off, but that's fine. So yeah, I agree. That was a little.
Hopefully it wasn't his sword arm.
I don't know if he has a sword.
Not that he uses it. He does carry
a
sword on him. He does carry a sword on him, but he's never used it. And then we get back to this little scene with Zoro and the pirate guy, and Zoro finally gets out with the help of Nami, finally breaking out of the cage. There's a line though here I really like of Zoro's, where they're talking. The pirates kind of like talking about, what are you going to do, kind of thing, and Zoro says, he goes, "You're just gonna." Bail on your friends or something. And Zoro's like, no, I don't think so. Luffy has changed that, kind of thing. Mm-hmm. So I think Zoro's already kind of grown to like a little bit of a bond with Luffy. And I think he's kind of like, see where this guy is, where Luffy's at, where this guy's at, and I like that little thing. Like, Zoro's got a little bit of a, bond moment with Luffy here.
Mm-hmm. I think it kind of makes sense, right? When you have this character that is a lone wolf type character that's very goal focused, and you then come across someone else who's very goal focused but is very group focused, it's that introvert and extrovert friend, right? Where the extrovert is dragging the introvert to all of these things that the introvert doesn't want to go to. And then at the end of the night, they're like, well, I guess that was fun.
I think that's why I relate to Zoro so well.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, Zoro doesn't look like he likes people much.
Yeah.
No. And then we get the big fight scene with uh, between the three characters again, kind of like our first episode.
Went on way too long.
But very smart move to separate the body parts and lock them up. I was like, how are they going to get out of this one? I did like the little bit of the scariness to Buggy here, where he starts going like he starts moving really fast with his things. That kind of looked kind of terrifying. I wouldn't want to run into that.
No, I wouldn't want to run into any part of this character, honestly.
Yeah, I mean, he's scary enough to not want to be definitely around. And then, and then he's down to shoes and hands and a head. So you got to wonder, is this guy going to be able to put himself back together again at some point?
Yeah, I don't know. I kind of thought initially, I was like, oh, someone's got to aim for the head, right? Like that's what'll kill him is if you stab him through the brain or something, that'll be what ends him. So I thought that's what's going to happen. And I was surprised that it didn't go that way. So yeah, it was a different
thought Luffy was gonna like rubber wrap him in like each limb or something, grab a part of him, rubber wrap him, grab another part, rubber wrap. But I like the way that they did it. A little bit. There were a few things where they were like hitting the parts out of the air like a baseball and then them landing into the box.
Very convenient.
Okay, fine.
This is
I like
where I feel like it's for kids. You know?
Yeah, I mean, I like the stabbing of the parts that seem more realistic to stab them, bring them down, keep them held. That Zoro did. I think that was a little more realistic. But again, this is just One Piece, I think, and that's just the point of this kind of thing.
Yeah.
It's kind of like things you just kind of have to like don't have an explanation kind of thing.
Yeah, you just gotta kind of let it go. But what I did like about this episode is they really are establishing that baseline of camaraderie between these three. Just with that line you just stated, Luffy changed that. I mean, this is a guy that is changing everybody he touches, and even the stoic ones that hate peopling. Zoro is opening his heart to this kid, and as well as all the other characters within. So hopefully we can get some tear-jerking moments coming if they continue to build these bonds stronger. Though we will need backstories from Zoro to strengthen the dynamics between the three, and backstories from everyone really.
Yeah. And then we got then we go back to our Marines, and Garb punishes, and I don't know if this is an execution or not, but Morgan.
I didn't think it was, but I don't know. Was it kind of like what Zoro was going to do, that he has to stay out?
That's what I was wondering too, because when Zoro was taken out into the courtyard, it was pretty much stated that you're going to die here. Because you're not going to get released or anything like that. So I'm wondering if this was kind of the same fate for Morgan, if this is the end. And I thought it was interesting that Melpo didn't seem bothered that his dad, I mean, they clearly don't have a very good relationship.
I mean, why would he? His dad's been insulting him this whole time, which, to be fair, I think his dad is 100% correct. Melpo's a useless turd. So, I mean, it makes sense. But,
was the dad killed?
I don't think
that's what I'm wondering.
Because
I don't know if
the snail mail had his little thing
that
on
is
him at
true.
the end.
Yeah.
And I didn't see him. So I'd have to look into I don't know if I saw him at the end of the episode again after
I don't know.
This other guy came in.
Well, we then see that Kobe gets recruited, right?
Yep. Yes. We did miss that. We did miss that scene where Kobe is called into Garb's office, and we learned, he tells him pretty much the truth.
Yeah.
And we do see a reaction from Garb about when he mentions the Straw Hat Pirate. So I guess my question is does he know Luffy, or is he thinking of Shanks?
I think it's Shanks. So what I may be wondering is if Buggy, Shanks, and Garb have a connection, And maybe that Shanks and Buggy were in the military with Garb, and that Shanks and Buggy have their kind of idea of what it is to be a pirate and want to go off and do their own thing. Buggy goes absolutely insane. Shanks stays calm and neutral, but Garb feels betrayed by Shanks. Maybe I feel like there's got to be some connection to Shanks. I think that's going to be our grounder of the two kind of storylines. That's my theory so far.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if we got that storyline as a last episode.
Same.
Where but we find out Buggy and Shanks's connection. I think be you know they have they're gonna want to stretch this. I'm sure they have plenty of material, but I think that would be probably a good last episode, but let's see where we go. I mean, that could be an episode 5
Yeah.
type a mid episode, and then we can, who knows if they develop more of the story with the military moving on.
I think
Um,
we're gonna have that because I feel like they want to have a clear delineation of the world, right? So I feel that we're gonna have the military be one. They're parallel storylines, but they'll intersect at different points. So we'll have Kobe in the military, and then we'll have Luffy and his crew. But I think there's got to be a connector, and that connector has to be Shanks. It's the only thing to me that really makes sense because I feel like Luffy's relationship to Kobe is too new, and I feel that Luffy's too young to have had a substantial impact on Garb, especially when we see the fact that in the first episode, Luffy was basically in this disheveled and falling apart boat. I don't think he's done enough damage to warrant a reputation of any kind
Right.
of
Yeah.
substance,
Even though
So,
he's going to be the pirate king.
yeah, King of the
Um,
Pirates.
yeah. And then speaking of Shanks, and this is something you and I talked about, Laura, and I think Dan, you were part of the conversation in the chat, but I think we were worried because Luffy has Shanks's hat as an adult. We assumed, something terrible is eventually going to happen to Shanks or something like that. So it was revealed, of course, in the end here that, he just gave the hat to Luffy. So, I mean, whether he's still alive or not is unknown. I think he's still alive. I think
I do
that'd
too.
be a cool meetup again. But I'm glad it didn't happen tragically. Like this is where,
Yeah.
when he got the sea monster, that's when I thought the hat was going to be.
So I have
kind
a
of thing.
theory, and I'm putting it out there now, even though it's probably ridiculous. I think that Shanks has the One Piece. Um, and I think for some reason he has it and like is not going to tell anyone that he has it kind of thing. Because maybe he like spent it trying to do good in the world or something like that because he's not our vicious type pirate. But I just feel like there's something deeper with Shanks. I'm curious to see what it is because he's the character I'm most connected to. I just like him so much, and I feel that the actor does such a good job. So I'm curious. That's what I
yeah,
want to know.
I like
Also,
that kind of looking forward to that.
right?
I really dig that because Shanks. So I'm what you just said really made me think about something. I don't know more about this world, to be honest. Why is everybody a pirate? What is the whole, I don't think they've really solidified this world for
Yeah.
me just yet. I do know that, we're only 2 episodes in. I'm sure there's gonna be plenty more world building going on. Um, though with Shanks and maybe always having the One Piece. I can see him being like, at least people are out chasing after something instead of each other.
Mm.
Rather, going after this rather than, what would this world have if that one piece was gone?
So,
S-
Music Man, oh yeah, comment here is really interesting.
mm,
Maybe the gum gum fruit is the One Piece. That would be so interesting if they think it's a treasure in the context of monetary value as opposed to magical value. That's a good point. I didn't even
that's
think of that.
interesting.
Because
Yeah.
I've been
That's
really
fair.
just focused on the context of treasure as gold, booty, like all that kind of stuff that we normally think of with pirates. But that's a good way to approach it. I think that's smart. But I also appreciate that maybe the One Piece is all the friends we made.
I know. I love Brian's comment here.
It's so good, Brian. Well done.
Yeah.
But
But
the episode ends
they
right with the secret, sort of.
well, yeah. I do like the why they're Nami's fixing his uh hat is what Luffy says about Shanks. And I love this whole episode. The one thing I did like about it that was like I mentioned in the beginning was this Shanks into Luffy, because if you remember a lot of what the adult Luffy was saying in a lot of this episode is things that Shanks said, which is if I can go back, don't you ever threaten my friends.
Mm-hmm.
Luffy mentions this to Buggy. Shanks mentions it to the pirates when we see young Luffy.
Mm-hmm.
At the very beginning, when they're first captured by Buggy, Luffy goes, "There's other ways of dealing with this without violence." These
Mm-hmm.
are lines from Shanks. This kept going back and forth between the two, and then this final line here where they're uh, on the boat, Shanks says, well, Luffy relays to the other two, if the path to what you want seems too easy, then you are on the wrong path. And I thought
Mm-hmm.
that was, again, just keep getting those little homages to back and forth of adult Luffy to living the life of Shanks, kind of
Yeah.
essentially. Yeah.
Yeah, I thought yeah, another good point here is it's more journey than the reward. So there's a lot of possibilities that we could have here, which I think is fun to always theorize about. I always like that kind of stuff.
And then we find out Nami is up to something.
She's duplicitous.
So she the obvious choice does seem the Marines, but she doesn't she seems very like she would seemed freak out too when
Yeah.
they were first captured and they weren't sure if it was the Marines or not, and she didn't want it to be the Marines. So I think that seems too obvious. I think it's just somebody else at some point.
Yeah.
And maybe we won't even know this season, but I would imagine it would
Oh.
come up at some point.
Yeah. So it'll be interesting to find out. I do think we'll find out this season though. So hopes for next episode?
Well, I feel like we kind of got a good wrap up, at least of the Shanks Luffy storyline. So I think we won't see any more of young Luffy, at least for a little bit. Maybe later when he's kind of on his own, doing his own journey. But I think maybe next week we might get a little bit. Like I said, I think there was a setup here for either Nami backstory or Zoro backstory, and that's kind of my hope. I think it was my hope coming into after the first episode was a little bit of that, because, like Dan said, I think for us to get invested in this friendship and this journey of these characters, I think we need a little bit from each of the characters.
Mm-hmm.
That's my thought.
How about you, Dan?
Yeah, I'm just really looking forward to where it goes. I think I have, I had no idea. I saw someone in the comments saying my favorite character is somebody you haven't met yet.
Yeah.
I love that. I'm hoping that, you know, Buggy really had a chance to be somebody for me, man.
Yeah.
I love that clown aesthetic.
I hate it so
He had
much.
a Yeah, he had a chance to be wild and crazy, and I don't think it landed. With that being said, though, the show as a whole is landing, and I'm completely interested moving forward.
That's good. I'm hoping
Mm.
we get more character driven scenes. I know based on my opinion of the first episode, and someone in our live stream told us that there are fight scenes in every episode. I'm not gonna lie, I skipped through a bit of the fight scene in this episode just because I felt it went on a little bit too long. I'll probably do that again in the future just because I get really bored of that stuff pretty easily, especially if it's just the same things over and over again. To me, it doesn't really add a whole lot. But I'm definitely curious about Nami. I am looking forward to meeting new characters, and I'm curious to seeing what the journey to the One Piece looks like and what the One Piece is, because like people in the chat are saying, it could be a plethora of different things that I wasn't even thinking about. I was being very constrictive in my thinking. So I'm looking forward to see what other out of the box possibilities the One Piece could be. So I think that is fun. So looking forward to that.
Yeah, that really opened what you just said definitely opened my eyes because I was thinking an amazing treasure.
Yeah,
Um,
same.
and with that, the most precious thing of all knowledge, or whatever that line was when she
Mm-hmm.
opened it up, I think, now you guys are changing my perspective. Now my Pandora's box has opened up what
Mm-hmm.
is the One Piece.
Interesting.
Yeah, same, absolutely. Seeing people's theories is just that's pretty
It's fun.
awesome. Yeah, yeah. I mean, do you feel I guess my only concern is I felt like the first two episodes anyway were a little episodic. Like I didn't feel like too much in advance. Like you, Laura, I definitely, and Dan too. I mean, I need that character development. Action scenes are fun. This is it's anime, so it's gonna have that action packed thing. But I feel like I want to see, like, when we get into season 3, I want to see everything that carried over, or episode 3. I want to see everything that carried over from episode 2 to continue on, and not like kind of feel like like a
A
new
restart.
episode.
Yeah.
Yeah, like a restart, yeah, kind of thing. And I'm
Well, I feel like
hoping
this
those
episode did
things
that a bit.
carry over. So I'm hoping we see Zoro keep that mindset of, I want to follow this kid, see where he goes, kind of thing. I hope that fault goes through, and he's not kind of like a douche to. They're all not all douchey to each other again in episode 3, kind of thing.
Agreed.
So, final thoughts, rating. How did you feel about this episode?
I'm not super generous with my rating for this episode because I felt like the buggy stuff went on way too long. So I'm probably at like a 5.5. But I feel like if you were to exclude that from the episode, and if it was just the character based stuff, it would be a 7.5 to an 8. So there are fight scenes in every section of the story. Okay, that's good because I mean, like, that's fine. I feel like if that's the way that they can integrate it, but obviously it's difficult in a visual medium, right? Like television, to have story going on through a fight scene, but it definitely can be done. We've seen good examples of that happening. So, but I think in order for that to get to that point, right, we need to have that character development. So I'm hoping that over the course of the next couple episodes, we really get in-depth character analysis, because I'm rooting for these characters, which is a good sign. And I'm interested in our core group of characters, which is a good sign. So I'm leaning into that.
I would say I'm definitely going to continue on with this series. It has intrigued me definitely to a point that I want to know what happens in the third episode. I think this third episode for me is pivotable, whatever. You guys know what I
Pivotal.
mean. Yeah,
Pivotal.
it's not coming out.
Yeah, it's not coming out for me either.
Yeah.
I'm dyslexic to
So
say that word.
yeah, I would say that this episode was, I think it put it up to a 7 for me, just because I really did enjoy Buggy's magic. It opened up the world a little more to find out that maybe people have some more of these fruits laying around. What other creations is this artist and author going to give us? And I think this third episode is pivotal. Is, like I said, because if it does not land for me, it might be hard for me to continue on.
Yeah, that's fair.
Now
Yeah.
listen, I am enjoying these characters, but some of these shows, because they're looking to extend things, they'll put it in a pointless episode for no reason. There were, I believe, Ted Lasso did this with one of the coaches. There was a
Oh, the
whole
beard episode?
episode. Yes,
The
the
beard
weird
episode,
episode.
yeah.
There was a whole episode. I was dying for what's going to happen next, and they threw this
Mhm.
at me. One Piece, you better not do that now.
I will
You
say on
know,
a rewatch, I appreciate that episode, but when I was watching it live, I agree.
it
I was like, "What
it
is
built
this?"
that character immensely because I love that character, how
I love
weird
beard,
he
yeah.
is, how into music he is. I
Yeah,
loved him, and I
yeah,
loved that they built on him, but I was dying for something more at that episode.
yeah, I
But with
hear you.
One Piece, they haven't landed like Ted Lasso landed
Yeah,
until that episode. This third episode, where we are going, is going to be very important, in my opinion, because I would say if this episode falls below a 5 for me, I could possibly not continue.
that's fair.
Some positive reinforcement in the comments.
Mhm.
Um, yeah, I'm with Dan. I think there were times where I think Buggy disturbed me, and I think that was the point. And I would have liked to see more. Maybe have a little more of a substantial villain rather than these episodic villains. So that's kind of my hope. Maybe Buggy will be more of a antagonist to the group later on. He's not obviously dead. Getting his body back together at some point, but that might take a bit. But Garp. Garp, obviously, the Marine commander is now probably going to be more of a antagonistic force going forward too. A little more of the Marines would be kind of cool too. I want to see a little bit of that aspect. I know. What's his name is not the most charismatic character or the best to follow. I think he would be my least favorite to follow. But what's his name again? I don't even remember. But pink hair dude.
Kobe?
Yeah, Kobe. Thank you. I think he is my least favorite to follow, but I do like the Marine aspect to it.
Yeah,
And I
same.
kind of want to see where that would go. Maybe that would strengthen my a little more of want to follow Luffy.
Sure.
He's a very like Harry Potter-esque figure to me, like young Harry Potter, like it's just like.
I got that
But
vibe. Yep.
yeah. The yeah, and then just the character growth. I think I did probably rate this one a little lower, despite the fact that I think the scenes with Shanks were really strong in this episode, and I did like the like you mentioned, Laura, the character moments, which were I think Nami and Zoro locked together
Yeah.
in a little bit of those scenes too. So yeah, probably about like a 7.5 for me on this, but
Well, that's pretty high.
that's pretty high. Well, yeah, it is, but it's low for me, me, because
That
I'm
is
usually
true.
pretty
Yes.
generous.
Are overly generous.
Yeah.
Well, thanks everybody.
Yeah. Any final comments? Dan, thank you very much for joining us
Yeah, thanks for coming on.
on this
Oh, it
Sunday
was my
evening.
pleasure. I hope my mic didn't. I had some
Nope.
technical difficulties coming
Not
on,
at
so
all.
I hope everything came through clear.
There was one episode of Wheel of Time that we started like 15 minutes late because I had no camera and no microphone. So this is not the worst that we have overcome.
Yeah, I had to switch cameras. I got the bad camera. It's dark, but I had a great conversation with you guys. I hope you invite me back, and
Yeah.
I would definitely love to
Yeah,
talk about it again with you. This is
absolutely.
interesting, to say the least. Mhm.
I think it's great when we add some more perspectives to it as well. Just besides
I'm sure
ours.
Chris
So,
gets tired of
um,
just listening to me blabber on. So
and I'm
having
sure
another person makes it
Lori
better.
gets tired of me like fumbling with my words. So we need that. We need that happy mix.
You need the
So
balance.
yeah, if maybe we might have like a couple guests like on one show too in futures, and so we might bring you. We'll probably definitely bring you back, Dan, because
Yeah.
we like the perspective and we like the fact that you seem to be enjoying the show. So if you enjoy episode 3, let us know.
Yeah.
Hey guys, I think they're still looking for somebody who knows One Piece to come on. So hit them up so we can get your perspective. I would love to get somebody for their next
Or
episode that
somebody who
has
has to keep their
read
mouth
the One
shut.
Piece. What's
Yeah.
that?
Somebody would have to keep their mouth shut because they're like, I can tell you what happens, but you know.
Yeah, I hate because you're reading their face too all the time. You're like, oh,
Yeah.
did his eye twitch when he said that? Like, oh, that guy's dead. He spoiled me with an eye twitch.
100%.
Absolutely.
Well, thank you,
Cool.
everybody. We
Yeah, thank you
do we
guys.
know who is our guest next week, Chris?
Yes, we will have Robert from Punk Rock Cereal Bowl on our channel for episode 3.
He has watched the
And
whole season, but
what's
has
that?
not read the manga. So
Yeah. Robert's the same way as Dan and ourselves. He has only watched the show, but I do think he watched the whole show. So he does have a
he
little
did,
bit
yeah. He did videos of it and reviews on his channel. So if you're someone that's already watched the whole season and you're interested in that, go check out Rob's channel, Punk Rock Cereal Bowl.
of
Dan, do you want to let people know where they can find you?
Yeah, sure. You guys can find me, Black and Blue Collar Reader on YouTube. I also share Discord with these two lovely humans. It's called the Unexpected Party. Come down. We have a lot going on there. Questions of the day, read-alongs, amazing recipes. You guys should really come down and check out the Discord. Laura's laughing, but there are definitely some amazing recipes that she puts out there. Come by. We have a great time. We have a lot of great characters
Got
in
a fun
that
group.
crew. Hmm.
And if you are watching this, definitely feel free to drop me a line. I am on Discord as well, and you can let me know if you'd like to participate on a show. Like I said, we're more than welcome to have more than one guest. So yeah, even if our episodes are booked with one guest, we can still have multiple guests. So,
and if you're
let us
watching
know.
this on a rewatch, let us know what you thought of episode 2 down in the comments down below. But make sure to go follow Dan, give him a like. And if you like videos like this, let us know by liking, subscribing, and letting us know your favorite parts.
And I also have to give a shout out to my co-host, Laura. You can find her at Fantasy Awash. Bye, guys.
Have a good night, everybody. We'll see you next week.